Congratulations to North Carolina, the best team in college basketball, that had the size and the toughness and an all-time great coach. And I am hearing everybody today, including NBA stars, say, last night was bad basketball. The refs killed the game, and I will be the first to admit the flow of the game was not great. But I sat there after the game, and I watched all the highlights, and then I thought about it, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, and I watched more highlights, and I thought about it again, and I watched some of the game again, and guess what, folks? That was not bad basketball. The referee's job is not to make sure you as a viewer enjoy the flow of the game. 33. If you combined fouls in all the games played in this tournament, the 18 games where the most fouls were called combined, a third of those games had Gonzaga or Carolina. This is how they play. We've all been fooled into believing good basketball is 72 threes. An all-star game in the NBA that's 194, 190. You can't hand check. You can't lean on anybody. We want one-and-dones and superstars at 19 years old and go to the NBA, and bigs don't shoot down low. They shoot threes. You can't get a center now to actually post up. And last night was the opposite of that, and we don't know what to do. Those damn refs didn't make the flow work for us. I got LeBron and Dwayne Wade on Twitter ripping them. Really, Dwayne Wade wants the refs to not call fouls? 25% of his career points are at the free throw line, dude. Dwayne Wade last night on Twitter, let these kids play, put the whistles away. Hey, D-Wade, love you, brah, but 25% of your career points have been at the free throw line. Should they just put the whistles away and let guys hack away at you? What we saw last night is what basketball was in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. But somewhere along the line, we decided basketball was both teams combining for 73-point shots, and nobody could hand check, and nobody could intimidate. Hell, everybody tells me how much they love Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley couldn't play in the NBA. They've outlawed him. If you don't shoot a three-pointer, if you're physical, if you push guys around and intimidate, there's no room for you. Last night, Gonzaga shot 34%, and Carolina shot 36%. The Zags went 8 minutes without a field goal. Is that bad basketball? No, it's great defense by North Carolina that had 5 guys over 6'8", most of them upperclassmen and mature. Sorry if they're not NBA stars. This was 2 unbelievable defensive teams, 2 well-coached teams, 2 physical teams, and the referees called the appropriate fouls. Gonzaga and North Carolina, if you talk combined fouls in every game in the tournament, were involved in 33% of the top 18 most fouled games. That's how they play. They're long and they're tough and they play defense and it's inartistic. It is not. And I made the mistake last night of thinking that. And then I watched it again and watched highlights again and read the box score again and made 2 calls again. If the game was so poorly officiated, ask yourself, why wouldn't 2 respected, intimidating veteran coaches complain more? They didn't. They didn't complain. Why wouldn't players be up in arms? They didn't complain. These were 2 heavyweight teams leaning on each other. When I moved to Vegas as a kid, my first broadcasting job, boxing would have 12 and 15 round fights. And when you got to the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th round of those heavyweight fights, Muhammad Ali once said, I thought I was going to die in the ring. They threw almost no punches. Was it bad boxing, or was it the true test of a man? Fighting outdoors, in the desert, 94 degrees, 14th round. You and the second best heavyweight in the world. Was that bad boxing? That's what we paid for. What do you want in your basketball? More three-pointers? No hand check? No Charles Oakley? Hell, we celebrate 30 for 30s at my former employer on the Nick Pacer series. They do series. They do documentaries on those games. There were 64 free throws per game. You didn't worry about the flow. Everybody wanted a Charles Oakley. Everybody wanted a Ben Wallace. Everybody wanted a Bill Laimbeer. Everybody wanted a Rick Manhorn. They mattered in the NBA, and they mattered in college basketball. We didn't worry about if a college basketball guy was going to be an NBA star. If he was great at Virginia, great at Kentucky, great at Duke, great at UCLA, we were good with that. We were good if a guy just shot a mid-range jumper. Now you got to shoot a three. We love when our centers intimidated, blocked shots, Patrick Ewing, and never stepped outside. Now if you don't, you're not worth anything. If the officiating was so bad, why did Mark Few say this after the game?
I mean, those were three of the best officials in the entire country, NBA, college, or anything. I thought they did a great job. I mean, these are two heavyweight teams going at it inside, playing really, really physical basketball. You still have to officiate the game of basketball, and that's what they did. I had no issue whatsoever. I thought they did a fabulous job.
We're playing games in domes. It's harder to play, and it's harder to officiate. There were two bad calls. A Carolina player had his hand out of bounds in possession. They missed that one. Yeah, 45,000 people can't hear yourself think. They missed one. That benefited Carolina. Yep, this play right there, that benefited Carolina. No question about it. But then later in the game, Gonzaga guy shoots an air ball. The referees say it was tipped. It was not tipped. Gonzaga then hit a three-pointer. That one went Gonzaga's way. Yep, that was just an air ball, folks. It never got tipped. The refs missed two calls. So what? I've never had a bad segment. You've never taken a wrong turn. 3.5 hours of basketball, you're going to miss a call or two. But we're mistaking what we saw last night as bad basketball because the flow was not good, and I'll be the first to admit it was choppy as a television product. But I'm okay with a North Carolina team that had the best size I've seen in years. Was what an incredible defensive team. Has an unbelievable Hall of Fame coach. Was one of the best passing teams, fourth in assists in the entire country of college basketball. 360 teams. They were fourth in assists. They defend, they push you around, they're long, they're well coached, and they pass. And they settle for twos. By the way, that Kentucky team with an Anthony Davis that everybody loved with freshmen, 140th in assists. Don't confuse bad flow because officials did their job for bad game. I miss an NBA with Charles Oakley and a little pushing. I miss the hand check. I'm over the one and done. Get me the three and staying over the one and done. And I no longer care about if your power forward's going to jettison college and go pro. I like kids that stay an extra year. It makes the game more interesting. I know who you're bringing back. I watched North Carolina last night, and I'm like, oh, I know all these guys. Yeah, they played last year. Fun when that happens, you know? Not getting remarried every 12 months. Not on the dating treadmill. Having a second, third year with a person. So we are confused. And let me segue into this. You know, you talk about the NBA. All you Laker fans out there. Remember that team, that Detroit Pistons team that beat you in 2004? And nobody gave them a chance? They held 5 straight opponents that year under 70 points. 17 times total that year, that Pistons team held people under 70 points. In the conference semis against the Nets, they held them to 56. Was it bad basketball? Was it choppy basketball? What was it? Well, what it was great defense and intimidating. And that's why we do 30 for 30 series on that stuff. Players fought and intimidated and didn't just run up the floor and get set 27 feet from the basket. I don't think last night was poorly officiated. I think it was officiated. Sometimes when you play defense, you got to do that. I got all sorts of stuff today.